Hello and welcome to this short presentation on the Level 3 Applied Diploma in Criminology at Ursuline College. So why study criminology? Well, essentially criminology is a well-regarded subject in higher education and employment. Successful criminology students will possess valuable background knowledge to current affairs, criminal justice and public policy. Equally significant, they will develop skills generally desired by employers such as research, analysis of sources and data, planning campaigns. For example, in this course you have to plan a campaign for change relating to underreported crimes and constructing a well-evidenced argument. There are many different career pathways that you can access from studying a subject like criminology. Ultimately the main purpose of this course, of this Level 3 Applied Diploma in Criminology, is to use the qualification as a stepping stone in order to access higher education degree courses. And whilst the vast majority of our students, in fact last year 22 out of the 32 students who did it went on to study criminology at university or a law related programme, while the vast majority of people do go on to university, there are others who take their studies of criminology and use it as a stepping stone to enter other related fields or areas of study. The qualification entitles people or allows people to gain the required understanding and skills to be able to consider employment within some aspects of the criminal justice system, for example the National Probation Service, the Courts and Tribunal Service, the National Offender Management Service, MI5, UK Border Force and Kent Police. In fact, a number of our students last year have actually been employed directly by Kent Police this year. So who do we have on the team? The criminology team at Ursuline College, members of staff who deliver the content of the course over the 2-year period. Well, we start with Mr. Anderson. He is the teacher of Unit 1 Criminology in Year 12, Changing Awareness of Crime. This is a controlled assessment unit, and he's also a teacher of psychology and a sixth form tutor. We then have Miss Rowe. Miss Rowe is the teacher of Unit 2 Criminology. Criminological Theories is the unit she teaches, and that is the examined unit, and it's an exam that you sit at the end of Year 12 for her. Ms. Rowe was also a teacher of religious education, and she is the Duke of Edinburgh Award Centre Manager in the school. Finally then there's me, and myself, Mr. Joyce. I am the teacher of Year 13 Criminology, although I also dip into Year 12. I have a couple of lessons with the two groups in Year 12 for oversight as the curriculum leader for social sciences, and I'll also be very involved with all as the deputy head of sixth form as well. So in terms of the course overview and what it is we actually do, obviously Unit 1 is called Changing Awareness of Crime. Learners will analyse different types of crimes, the reasons why they're unreported, explaining the reasons certain crimes are unreported. You explain the consequences of underreported crime. You describe the media representation of crime and the impact of that media representation on the public perception of crime. You're also trained on how to evaluate different methods for collecting statistics about crime. After this, we teach about lots of different campaigns. Now, not all these campaigns have to be related to a crime, but really we're showing you them so that we can look at the methods that they use and evaluate the effectiveness of those methods of lots of different campaigns. And we then use that to plan our own campaign for change relating to an underreported crime, and so you look at that from you look at it from a planning perspective initially, and you set your targets, you justify the reasons why you've chosen that topic, you get your funding, and then you design the materials in relation to that, and there's quite a significant portion of marks available for designing materials. And then you finish by justifying your selection of everything, like the language you use, the colour theme and all that stuff. Really, really fascinating unit. And obviously as a controlled assessment unit, you're completely in control of that. You bring all your notes into that exam. It happens in school, it's internally assessed originally, then it gets sent to the exam board for moderation. The second unit then, criminological theory, sorry. This is Miss Rowe's unit, and here we consider how changes in criminological theories influence policy, and how the theories can then be applied to a specific crime or to a criminal behaviour in order to explain it. So we look at comparing the behaviour and deviance. We look at explaining the social construction of criminology. We look at things like the biological, individualistic, sociological theories of criminology. It's quite similar to psychology in that respect. We analyse different situations of criminality in light of this and evaluate the effectiveness of the theories that you've talked about previously, those biological, individualistic and sociological, in explaining the causes of crime. You'll then look at all the theories that you've done again, and the social, and you'll kind of apply them to social changes and campaigns, which you did in Unit 1, and look at how all of those combined can affect policy making by government and lawmakers. We then turn to Year 13, because obviously at the end of Year 12 you will sit an exam. You'll have completed one unit of control assessment and you'll have completed one external exam. In Year 13 it's the exact same setup. So we start with crime scene to courtroom. This is my personal favourite. You look at the moment a crime, from the moment a crime takes place right through to when a decision is reached in court, and even after making a decision whether you think that the verdict was correct, and you look at all the steps in between. Originally we start by looking at the roles of different personnel involved in criminal investigations, so things like pathologists or detectives, forensic scientists, scenes of crime officers, or CSIs, as you might have heard them called on TV. Lots of different groups there. We then look at the techniques that they would use in a criminal investigation, so things like surveillance, criminal profiling or geographical profiling. We look at using expert witnesses or eyewitness testimony or in interviews. We look at the use of DNA and forensic databases as part of that unit. That is the biggest section actually, looking at those techniques for Unit 3. We then look at the evidence that they find, how that evidence can be processed, how it's stored, analysed, collected and all that. We look at the rights of individuals involved in criminal investigations, so this will be suspects as well as witnesses and victims. We'll have a look at the requirements of the Crown Prosecution Service, the CPS, for prosecuting suspects in this country, and the various trial process that they have to go through. We look at all the rules then in relation to using the evidence in criminal cases, and we then assess the key influences in terms of juries and how they judges or juries, and how they reach an outcome in criminal cases. Okay. We'll also consider the role of lay people, specifically juries and magistrates, and their place in the criminal justice system. And then to finish, we've got two big sections on examining a range of different information sources, such as trial transcripts or evidence or media reports or law reports or anything like that, and deciding whether they are valid in relation to, or valid sources of information in relation to cases that we look at. We'll then finish, and a really interesting topic to finish on, I suppose, for Unit 3. We make conclusions. We draw conclusions from a number of different cases that we looked at. We decide whether we think the judgments were fair and just, whether perhaps there was a miscarriage of justice, or whether the verdict is completely safe and we're happy with it. And we, throughout this unit, we look at dozens of cases, in fact probably closer to 40 different cases that throughout the entire unit, and you can pick any of those to draw from and reach your conclusions. So that's a controlled assessment unit. We finished then the second year study with Unit 4, which is crime and punishment. Here you're focusing on the criminal justice system in England and Wales and how it operates in order to achieve social control. So we start that by looking at the processes used for lawmaking, the organisation of the criminal justice system in England and Wales, the models of criminal justice. We've got the due process model, and the crime control model, one side which is very much on the side of the offender and protecting their rights, and the other one very much on the side of society and protecting society from the evil that that person has done. We look at different role of agencies then that can be involved in social control, agencies like the police or victim support or free legal aid and stuff like that, and how those groups can contribute, I suppose, to achieving social control, and we look at their effectiveness and the limitations that they have there too. Okay, so quite a lot. Obviously I can't really do it justice in a short video like this. It's very broad course, very interesting topic with lots of case studies and lots of different crimes and to be explored. In terms of assessment then, it's broken up into 4 different units, and each unit is weighted equally over the 2 years in order to achieve the diploma. Now the important thing about this course, I suppose, is that actually 50% of the marks can be achieved in what we call a controlled assessment. So this is an exam which you complete in school. It's 8 hours long. Now that sounds like a lot, but it's done over 2 days, 2 4-hour days or 5 and a 3-hour day, where you get to bring all of your notes into the exam, everything that you've done up until that point about the topics in question. You bring everything into the exam. You are given a brief, which will be a scenario. There will generally, given it's a criminology course, be quite a few crimes committed in that brief, and then you will have to answer a number of tasks based on the brief that you've been given. But importantly, you get to use all of your notes that you bring in when you're typing this up. Okay, so very much in your control. What you complete for Unit 1 and Unit 3 in terms of those control assessment units. The other appeal, I suppose, in terms of assessment of this course is, even though there are 2 written exams, they are broken down into 2 1.5-hour exams, and they are completed, one in Year 12 and one in Year 13. So where some of you may also be doing other A-levels, the majority of courses there are broken down so that you do all of the exams at the end of the course. But with this course, it's broken down. You do 4 units with 2 completed in Year 12 and 2 completed in Year 13. So by the time you get to the exams at the end of Year 13, you should already have banked and know 75% of your grade for criminology, and you're only waiting on that last little 25% to pull your marks up, or to see, achieve that A or B grade that you might be looking for. What I've decided to put on the board is on the slide is a couple of examples of the campaigns for change material that some people have made for Unit 1, the controlled assessment in Year 12. And I only really, I suppose, put these up is just to show that it's very much in your control. And there's 20 marks available for this, and whatever you're interested in, you can go on. Now, I do not at any point expect people to be drawing, and I'm no good at drawing, so I'd never expect anyone else to do it. But these particular students were good at drawing, and so they were able to kind of design their campaign based on their strengths. But the student in the middle, who wasn't good at drawing, didn't want to draw, was able to use websites to help her design t-shirts that would help support her campaign. And actually that did quite well, because if you notice the difference between the two either side, it's not very clear. Well, I suppose the one on the right, it's obvious that they're talking about domestic violence, but it's lacking in any sort of information about how to contact support or any networks that you can get involved with. Was the one in the middle was actually very clear: don't get pulled over, drive sober. It's got a catchy phrase, it's got a social media link that you can attach, and it's also got a website address there that people could go on to. So in terms of a campaign, it's quite effective. It's catchy, you remember the slogan and you can see it. Now the other ones, whilst they're nice posters, they're striking and I suppose they're hard hitting. It's not initially clear what the campaign is, but the students are able to use these anyway as the basis for posters and other other materials that they made. I've shown you this one as well to show you the broad range of things that people put on. Obviously we've got some wristbands there. We've also got stickers, you booze, you lose. You've got a leaflet based on Ponzi schemes, and you've also got a leaflet on the left based on domestic abuse. Now the one in the middle I've put on purpose, okay? Because there is, if you look very carefully, a spelling mistake, and I'll try to highlight it here so you can see, just there. I don't think it's coming up, so you may not be able to actually see that. There we go. No. Okay, well anyway, there is a spelling mistake there. The reason I show you that is just to highlight the fact that actually, there we go, it's appearing on the screen now, to highlight that even though there's a spelling mistake in that, that still achieved a high grade, okay, for a number of reasons. It's clear that the campaign is related to underage drinking, which came up in the briefing that particular year. You've got a statistic, 90% of addiction starting in the teenage years, to kind of give it that extra level of detail, and you've got a clarity of purpose. It's trying to encourage young people to not drink, okay? And so despite the spelling mistake, it still scored highly because there was technical creativity in the design of the material, there was persuasive language used, and the message is pretty clear, okay? So just a couple of examples. Obviously this is only one part of the controlled assessment, but it's the part that I suppose students tend to like the most, because they can get creative and do something that they are very much interested in. We're getting near the end now. We're just having a quick look at the extracurricular activities that are involved. Now, the department organises many regular field trips to consolidate student knowledge. I suppose the most relevant and enjoyable trip is our annual visit to London, where visits are arranged to different places such as Parliament and the Old Bailey, the Clink Museum and the City of London Police Museum. We also do a walking tour of the East End of London some years. Anybody who's interested in Jack the Ripper is particularly keen on that trip, on that tour. We also organise wider school trips, or wider department trips to Berlin and Rome, where aspects of social justice can be analysed at an international level. Berlin tends to happen in February and Rome tends to happen in July, so we get all the nice heat for just before the summer holidays. You know, trips are one aspect, I suppose, of the extracurricular offering we have at the school. The department also has many connections with the wider, I suppose, stakeholders in the topic. And we do hold an annual criminology conference in the school, usually in October, and we tend to draw a nice crowd coming in, and in fact most of them contact us. They want to come back every year, so we have guest speakers in every year from UK Border Force, Kent Police's forensic training team. We've got lecturers coming across from Canterbury Christchurch to, you know, particularly good. There's one particularly good lecturer who comes across and talks about the privatisation of aspects of the criminal justice system. So like where prisons are being outsourced to private companies to run. It's really fascinating. We get speakers in from victim support to talk about the support services that they offer to victims of crime, which is very helpful when you're doing Unit 3 and you look at the rights of victims actually. We tend to get a couple of former MPs down as part of the parliamentary outreach programme. We once had a Lord and a Lady from the House of Lords come down as well. And then we've got magistrates in the community, so a number of magistrates who make decisions on a daily basis in criminal cases, who come in and speak to the students about their experiences. So I hope you found that somewhat helpful in giving you an idea of what the course is like. It's obviously easier when you can show people the material or show them around the classroom so they can get a feel for what's done. We have got a brand new criminology IT suite in the school, which is very helpful for when completing these controlled assessments, and you've got constant access to IT support. But basically, I'm going to leave it there. If you do have any questions at all in relation to studying criminology at Ursuline College, You know, it is the biggest option subject, it is the most popular subject in our sixth one. Do feel free to contact me using the email details on the screen. Okay, we do hope to see you in September 2021. Thank you very much. Goodbye.